Welcome to HB Reddit Stories. Today we will see stories of r/am I the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for letting my daughter call out/correct her aunt? My daughter, 5, and my niece, 5, are in the same class at school. A couple of weeks ago my sister and niece joined us for ice cream and my sister brought up all the dumb names these kids in class have, and 2 of the kids she mocked specially were boy/girl, twins my daughter befriended. My sister said it was tragic how 2 parents could get twins and give them such ridiculous and awful names and that they're sure to be in a world of hurt eventually. My daughter told my sister the twins are her friends and that my sister wasn't being nice. She told my sister she'd be sent to the thinking chair if she said that out loud. Then she told her she should say sorry for being mean. My sister looked at me and expected me to say something. I backed my daughter though and told my sister she was being very unkind and judgy. My sister said I still shouldn't let my daughter do that. That 5-year-olds don't get to call out or correct adults. Am I the a-hole? Top comments. Not the a-hole. You have a very smart 5-year-old. She stood up for herself and her friends, and you backing her up is showing her that standing up for herself is a good thing. She didn't have to call out your sister if she didn't act like a child herself. I think you're a great parent. Not the a-hole. There are many adults who need a thinking chair. What a great idea. So glad your daughter felt safe to advocate for herself and friends. Kudos to you, Mom, for supporting her. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my brother's wedding after he kicked me out of the bridal party for getting engaged? I, 41F, have always been close with my brother, Tom, 38M, and we've had a great relationship. When he got engaged to his fiancée, Sarah, 38F, I was honored to be asked to be a bridesmaid. They've been planning a big wedding for over a year, and I've been heavily involved in helping organize things and even offered to cover some of the costs since my brother and his fiancée were on a tight budget. A few months ago, my partner proposed. I already refer to him as my husband, but we weren't officially married, to me, and I said yes. We kept it low-key to not take away from Tom's upcoming wedding since we have been together for years and have an established marriage-like life together. However, after announcing our engagement, Sarah became cold towards me. Tom later told me that Sarah was upset, feeling like I stole her spotlight by getting engaged before their wedding. A week later, Tom and Sarah called me and said that, because of the timing of my engagement, it would be best if I stepped down as a bridesmaid. Sarah wanted the focus on her, and apparently, my new engagement was too distracting. I was hurt but agreed to step down to keep the peace. Here's where things escalated. Tom recently asked if I was still willing to help cover the wedding costs I had previously offered to pay for, a significant amount. I was shocked. I politely declined, saying that I didn't feel comfortable contributing anymore since I was no longer in the bridal party and felt hurt by the situation. Tom got really upset and called me selfish, saying I'm ruining his big day. Sarah even accused me of holding a grudge and trying to punish them. Now, my family is split. Some think I should still help since I initially offered, while others agree that it's unfair to expect me to contribute after being kicked out of the wedding party. So, am I the a-hole for refusing to cover the wedding expenses after being removed from the bridal party? Top comments. Not the a-hole. Why would you announcing your engagement have any influence on their wedding? Does everyone have to pause their life until the highly exalted Sarah gets married? You have no obligations to pay for anything for your brother, other than what you yourself want. Them expecting money after treating you like this for no valid reason is absurd. Not the a-hole. You don't need to put your entire life on hold because someone else's wedding is a couple of months away. You weren't stealing her spotlight, and she was being petty. Opie replies. Thank you. I feel a little bad since my partner and I have lived as a married couple for a long time, and he just wanted to make it official. But I think I just feel guilty really easily. I thought you were going to say you announced your engagement at some part of the wedding but you just got engaged in the proximity of their wedding. Your brother is ridiculous and he shouldn't be surprised you are irked by his snub. And an irked person doesn't pay for the wedding. Not the a-hole. Opie replies. Yeah, I can understand if hubby popped the question at their wedding, but no, that didn't happen. Not the a-hole. Anyone precipitated this, It was your brother and his fiancée by getting upset that you got engaged so close to their wedding. I shudder at what would have happened if you had the temerity to get pregnant. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband correct information about a croissant? I, 38, brought my husband, 45, home a chocolate croissant. I told him, I got you a chocolate croissant. When he looked in the bag he said, I thought you said you got a chocolate croissant. This isn't a croissant. I told him that's what the bakery and many people call a chocolate croissant and he could Google to confirm. He said, a croissant is a specific shape. This is not a croissant. I Googled chocolate croissant and showed him that what he had in front of him was considered a croissant. He then became very angry, yelling and accusing me of always having to be right. He said that his criticism was about the croissant and not me, and the fact that I had to prove him wrong was a deep failing in me and that I'm just like my father. I told him in no way did I take anything personally, and I didn't want to prove him wrong, just share information about what is considered a croissant, as he was so firmly against the information I told him. This ended in him yelling more, storming off and closing the door to our bedroom. Nothing inside me wants to prove him wrong, also if he didn't consider it a croissant, even though others may, that's fine. On my side, I know having someone say, well actually, must be annoying sometimes. I could have just ignored him and let him believe whatever he wants, who really cares what he believes a croissant is? But I am someone who likes facts and sharing opinions, and I am happy to be wrong and learn something new. Am I wrong to assume his response would be, oh, cool. I didn't know that, instead of lashing out and accusing me of needing to be right? Am I the a-hole for sharing correct information about a croissant? Top comments. I would have told him you are right and then eaten the pastry right in front of him. And said next time I will get you a real croissant and not a fake chocolate croissant. He says you need to prove him wrong, yet he spent all this time trying to prove you wrong. So apparently you both have issues with always having to be right, and this is just something you two need to work on. Not the a-hole. But you and your husband need to have better communication skills if this is how you talk about something as simple as a croissant. OP replies. 100% that would have been a much better response from me. I think my problem is I think I'm being helpful until he starts yelling at me. Which hurts. But I should know by now to just let him think and feel whatever he wants, make light of the situation and keep my facts to myself. Thank you for the feedback. Next story. Am I the a-hole for pretty much telling my friend, I told you so, after he got in a car crash? I, 19M, am the only one with a car, so I was the one driving everyone around. I had a set of rules that everyone had issues with, such as, seatbelts, at the back too, no eating/drinking, water accepted, no distracting me, they would often try shoving their phones to me, and no blocking my blind spot by sitting weirdly. I don't care if my car has blind spot monitoring, I prefer to check manually. Everyone constantly grilled me for my rules and made fun of me for following the law. Yes, I admit I miss my exit a quarter of the time, but I won't cut off other drivers or reverse just to save few minutes, an actual suggestion from them. One of my friends even said, if I had a car, I wouldn't drive like a grandma like you. You suck at driving. Suffice to say, I was relieved when one of my friends finally got a car and could be the group driver. At first, everyone roasted me in group chats and in real life, raving about how much more fun it was now that I wasn't driving. 5 months after getting his license and car, my friend told everyone in the group chat that he'd been in a car crash and his car was totaled. He shared the dashcam footage and genuinely thought he wasn't at fault, calling the other driver a dumb typical female driver. The footage showed him going 75 km per hour in a 50 km per hour zone on a blind curve. The other driver was turning right, and he hit her at full speed. Instead of braking, he honked. For some reason, neither he nor the other driver got a ticket. I told him in the group chat that he was probably at fault, considering he was going 50% over the speed limit, on a blind curve, and just 100 meters from a 40 km per hour school zone. Even if he had the right of way, insurance would deem him at fault due to his speed and slow reaction time. I told him not to send the footage to his insurance company. Of course, everyone in the chat called me a dumb, and one of them said, "Bro, I live near that neighborhood. My brother goes 80 on that street, everyone does." That lady was the idiot. Since the cop didn't ticket him and the group chat supported him, he sent the footage to his insurance company. He was so confident that he started asking for suggestions on what new car to get once he received a fat paycheck. Everyone got hyped and started browsing AutoTrader. A week later, he got the verdict from his provider. He was deemed 100% at fault. He also had the cheapest insurance plan, so his insurance company paid nothing to him and only covered the other driver. Even if they had paid him something, he wouldn't be able to afford insurance with his record as a young male. In the group chat, I responded with, "LMAO, now you know why I drive like a grandma. Enjoy taking the bus." Everyone in the chat reacted with, "Damn," and the startled face emoji. He replied, "Rules are meant to be broken, I'm not a stickler like you." Everyone gets into a car crash. Top comments. Not the a-hole. He was at fault. And between the dumb typical female driver and rules are meant to be broken, I'm thinking that this was not just a crash, it was karma, pun intended. I just hope, when he gets another car, he doesn't hurt someone. In any case, this was a very clear case of a deserved, "I told you so." But, I guess that you are back to being the group driver again. OP replies. Nope, I ain't driving anyone again lol. We all take public transport now. Well, at least he wasn't mad. Not the a-hole. The rules of the road exist for a reason. By the way, the rebuttal to "rules are meant to be broken, I'm not a stickler like you. Everyone gets into a car crash" is that the ones who break the rules people are the ones deemed 100% at fault for it. Of course this guy is an a-hole. He can easily kill someone. Would he and these people say then? Why are you even friends with this guy? Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to take my sister's kids to school after they've been bullying my son? A bit of background, my sister, Sarah, and her two kids, Jake 14M and Mia 12F, recently moved in with us after Sarah went through a rough divorce. She's been staying with us for about 6 months now, and we've tried to be as accommodating as possible. My wife, Laura, and I have one son, Ethan, 13M. At first, everything was fine, and the kids got along okay. Over the last few months, however, Jake and Mia have been making Ethan's life miserable. They've been teasing him constantly, calling him names, and even going through his things when we're not around. It's been especially bad for Ethan because he's more introverted and quiet. He's come to us multiple times, upset about things they've said or done, and I've tried addressing it with Sarah. Her response has been pretty dismissive, saying, "It's just normal sibling stuff. They'll grow out of it." The tipping point came last week when Ethan told me that Jake had taken his school project, something he'd spent days working on, and ruined it by drawing all over it. Ethan was in tears. When I confronted Jake, he laughed it off like it was a joke. Sarah didn't seem to think it was a big deal and said Ethan was being too sensitive. Laura was furious but tried to stay calm. I finally had enough and told Sarah that if she couldn't keep her kids in check, I wasn't going to keep doing favors like driving them to school every day. I've been taking all the kids to school since Sarah moved in because her car broke down and she hasn't been able to get it fixed. It's about a 20-minute detour for me, and I was happy to do it at first, but after all this, I told her it was too much, and she needed to figure it out on her own. Now, Sarah is upset, saying I'm punishing her and her kids over something small, and it's not fair for me to leave her stranded. She even went as far as to say I was being petty and holding a grudge against the kids. She thinks I'm overreacting and should just let it go for the sake of family harmony. My wife is 100% on my side and thinks Sarah's kids have been out of line for months. But now Sarah's giving me the cold shoulder and telling other family members that I'm being unreasonable. So, am I the a-hole for refusing to drive them to school anymore? Top comments. Overall not the a-hole, but you only stated that you wouldn't drive them to school. Why the hell haven't you kicked them out? They are bullying your son. By ruining his school project they are messing with his grades. What if that project is the difference between a pass and a fail? They are bullying him in his own home. Kick them out, and anyone who tells you you're being horrible and unfair, ask them when are they taking her in then. OP replies. You're right, I think it is about time someone else takes them on as their burden. I have been doing this for long enough now, and she doesn't even seem as though she is trying hard to fix her situation. You are the a-hole. Accidentally put not the a-hole, but corrected it. The bullying is going to get worse for Ethan unless you put an immediate stop to this. You need to protect him. Your sister is allowing her children to do this while you graciously opened your home to them. Because she is doing nothing, her kids are taking it as permission to do so. You took the first step. Let her know that there will be consequences for their behavior. If she doesn't parent/discipline her kids, you will. Why are you putting your sister before your son? You really need to tell your sister to move out. Give her 30/60/90 day, whatever you can work out, to find a place and move out. Though I can see her dragging it out and playing victim of you being so cruel to a single mother. Though honestly 30 days is more than enough. Ethan deserves to feel safe in his own home, and he isn't. Eventually the bullying by his cousins will turn physical, like tripping, pushing, slap upside the head and then called joking. Is that what you want for him? To see that it's okay to be abused because they are family? The part where your sister said it was normal sibling stuff pissed me off. 1. They aren't Ethan's siblings. 2. Siblings generally don't do this to their siblings/family. Also, put a lock for Ethan on his door to protect his possessions and privacy, if he has his own room. It's time you make your son's well-being a priority. This is causing irreparable damage to his self-esteem. This age is going through a lot of physical and emotional changes, and such treatment can negatively his emotional development. Why has your wife not stood up for her son? 100% on your side doesn't mean anything if there is no action. Ethan needs protecting and you both aren't doing it. P.S. This is how some kid gets on the news for snapping. OP replies. You're right, self-esteem and emotional damage is nothing that should be looked over. I'm definitely going to make sure they are out of the house soon. I think you are the a-hole because you're imposing a penalty that doesn't do anything and doesn't mean anything. Refusing to drive her kids while they still live in the house is going to amp up hostilities. You need to tell Sarah that she has 1 week to get out. The end. OP replies. You're right, I'm going to have to clear her out as soon as possible. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay a neighborhood kid for cutting my lawn when I didn't ask him to? I, 29M, recently bought my first house. I'm settling in and like the neighborhood, and a few neighbors even came by to say hello. They included a woman, 43F, and her 13-year-old son. Not long after, I was on my couch one afternoon and saw the son outside, mowing my front lawn. I was confused, since I'd never asked him to and he'd never offered. I went out and politely asked him why he was doing it. He said he did it for lots of neighbors, and quickly added they give him $5 for it. I found it really weird, so thanked him for the partial work he'd done, before explaining that since I hadn't asked or wanted him to do it, I wasn't going to be paying him. He said okay, and quietly left my lawn. I figured that might be the end of it, just a kid trying to make some money, resolved with no harm done, end of story. But the next day his mom arrived on my doorstep and angrily asked me why I hadn't paid her son. I basically repeated what I'd said to her son, but she wouldn't accept it. She just kept saying that it was a kind gesture, and that he does it for all the other neighbors. She also said $5 isn't a lot of money and I could have just gave it to him. I kept trying to explain that an agreement like that needs to be set up ahead of time, otherwise it's nothing more than a random demand for money, but she basically tuned me out and ended up walking away as I was talking. I was amazed the adult in the situation was handling it worse than the literal child was. I'm wondering how much longer this will go on for. That was last week. Every time I've seen her since, she stared daggers at me or made a show of crossing the street to avoid me. I'm not instigating anything further, I really have no desire to speak to her, but I'm thinking she might try to send her poor kid back to collect the money, or even mow the lawn again. I vented about this to family and friends, and while most seemed to agree with me, some said I should have been grateful and paid the boy, and just told them from then on not to mow the lawn. I can't tell if I've been in but here, or if my reaction to the whole thing was entirely justified. Top comments. Not the a-hole. I kinda feel bad for that kid, because it sounds like his mom is teaching him that he can get stuff for completely unsolicited help. OP replies. I feel bad for him too, he seems like a nice kid. His mom's behavior is what I take issue with. Asking for money for services that weren't requested, after the fact, is not a kind gesture. It's a trap. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. There needs to be communication before the kid does this sort of thing. And you stopped him once you noticed what was happening. You didn't wait for him to finish and then question him. You weren't trying to get free work. What do the neighbors say/think? Maybe try to talk with them and get their input, they've been there longer. They all may be fed up with that family, also. Opie replies. I haven't spoken to the other neighbors about it, but it might be worth it to hear their take. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share and subscribe the channel HB Reddit Stories.